Death Stranding has to be one of the most interesting games I've ever played. Leading up to its release, it had all these weird trailers that basically explained nothing about the game, and everyone was so excited about it because it was Hideo Kojima, the man behind the incredibly famous Metal Gear franchise and PT, the horror game that set the internet on fire. And then it came out, it got completely shredded in their reviews. I mean, it's like someone took their dang math homework and just ruined it. And so I looked at this game and I said, this does not look like a game that I would enjoy. This gameplay is not the kind of thing I usually like. But for some reason, I was just driven to play it anyway. I sunk 44 hours into Death fucking Stranding. So even though that game has been ripped to shreds by this point, I want to talk about my thoughts on it. So with this video, I want to go in depth and get into the details of what worked about Death Stranding and what did not, and how it could have been done better. Because I, as a 22-year-old man sitting on his couch with no game development training, definitely knows more about game design than an entire studio helmed by a very famous developer. I'm a big smart brain man. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. The gameplay is exactly what you think it is. It's walking or driving from point A to point B with a package so some idiot in New Jersey can get a butt plug delivered. It's boring. It's really boring. But there's this beautiful thing at the center of all of it that keeps you pushing forward, that makes it addicting. And that is a beautiful sense of accomplishment. There is something so utterly satisfying about completing a delivery successfully that it makes you just want to go, okay, I'll complete another delivery, sure, slap it on my back. Hey, here's something else that needs to be delivered. Slap that on my back too. Oh, here, a third thing needs to be delivered. All right, on my back it goes. My muscular skeleton, my skeleton does not need to be healthy. Let's get these packages delivered, and then, hey, that felt really good. Let's do another one, and then it's 4 hours later and you haven't eaten anything all day. Now, there's a few factors that lead into this sense of accomplishment, and the one that I want to talk about first is a very small thing, and it's that the game lets you add a waypoint on your map. Now, a lot of games let you do this. Skyrim lets you add waypoints on your map. Red Dead 2, waypoints on your map. I think Breath of the Wild does it too. There's a lot of games that do it. So what's different about Death Stranding? You can put multiple waypoints that connect together in a path, and that lets you plan your path ahead. This is especially helpful in areas where the terrain is pretty rough. There was something that's felt so good about planning ahead and having it go well. One of my favorite areas of the game was this big snowy mountain. And this place is great for a number of reasons. There's rocks and cliffs and a lot of fucking snow. But if you take the time before you go out on your delivery to plot out your route and make sure you're avoiding all these obnoxious things, you'll find it is not that hard to get around, and it's actually pretty essential. Because on the higher parts of the mountain, there'll be these blizzards blowing and you can't see more than 10 feet in front of you. You can't see Mississippi from the Louisiana, some southern saying. You can't fucking see. And so it feels super rewarding when you can't see jack shit, but you know exactly where you're going, because you set those waypoints ahead of time. It's a very rewarding feeling, which makes it so that even though the gameplay itself is not that fun, you still feel good about doing it. But what about when you actually deliver the dang box? Well, it's not an empty feeling when you finish that delivery, okay? They have this beautiful thing called a rating system. Now, what does the rating system do? Well, what do you fucking think, you idiot? Every delivery you complete gets rated on a number of factors, the most important of which being the weight of the cargo you're bringing, how quickly you brought it, and the quality of it. If it's, all busted up, people open it up, nice fine china they ordered from Amazon.com is all busted up, they're not gonna like it very much. But if you get everything just right, you get that nice, that you get that B, you get that A, you get that S, you get that gold star, you get that high five, you get that fucking Hot Wheels toy, okay? It's sick. And it's not just an arbitrary ranking either. It's actually important to your progression in the game. Every time you get a good ranking, it feeds directly into your skills that will unlock new equipment or be able to upgrade your guy, his name is Sam by the way, and make him real strong. If you make enough deliveries where the load is really heavy, you'll increase your carry weight. It's pretty straightforward, but it's really important towards making you feel like continuing to do more deliveries. It's like, okay, if I keep doing more deliveries, they'll be less annoying because I can keep stacking shit up till it gets way tall. Now, a lot of people come down on this game because it is very tedious, and especially come down on the vehicles because they are difficult to drive and they don't get over the terrain that well. But in a way, I almost see this as a good thing because it makes it so that when you do figure out how to use those vehicles, it feels like you're mastering a trade and becoming a better Amazon delivery man in the process. With enough practice, I found myself being able to get the motorcycle over like rocky terrain because you're able to kind of pop it up on the rear wheel while still being able to rotate and move forward. So if you're really smart about it, you can get the bike over just about any terrain, to the point where towards the latter half of the game, I was using the bike a lot more than I was walking. And then you feel good about yourself. Again, a job well done. Not only have I completed that delivery with an S rank, I did it on my motorcycle, so it was like 10 times faster, and I'm better than you because I know how to do it and you don't, and you smell bad. Do you hear me? You smell bad. It's brilliant. It's weirdly brilliant how these little things that could potentially be considered negative points about the game or things that are really tedious and frustrating transform into something that can be extremely rewarding and addicting. Now, this can also be considered a bit of a problem because I've already kind of told you the way to master this game, and it's just to plan ahead. Now, certainly learning how to use all these little things that the games will give you, like being able to use the vehicles well, or being able to use your equipment in a really smart way, or being able to do sick kickflips on your tech deck. All those things are going to help you as you make your way across the world. But because of the way the ranking system is set up, realistically speaking, if you're really smart about it and you plan ahead, you will always be able to get an S rank. And then the game becomes easy, and that's not a good thing. The game doesn't throw a lot of obstacles at you, and certainly none that make you think on your feet. Nearly everything I'm about to mention can be avoided by just planning ahead. There are these guys who like to run around, I don't remember what they're called, I'm going to call them stealing boys, and they think it's funny to try to take your packages. I guess they get off on it. I understand. When I open my door and it's a package from Amazon with my green screen kit, that's pretty epic, but I don't think it's worth stealing and going to jail and possibly getting punched by Norman Reedus. I'm going to go more in depth into combat later in the video, but the important thing to note right now is that it's really easy to avoid. There are these posts in the ground around all of their camps, and if you just stay outside of the post, you can go around it and they won't trouble you. They stay within their posts. In addition to that, when you do get further into the game, it'll just show you exactly where they all are and where their perimeters are, and so at that point you can just plan your route ahead of it using the waypoints we talked about earlier. Another obstacle that the game will try to throw at you is weather, which you quickly realize it kinda isn't a problem at all. Every now and then you'll run into these acid rainstorms, and before you try to correct me and say it isn't acid rain, I know I'm just simplifying it because it basically is. It will damage your packages over time. But the thing you realize is that it doesn't really matter if the outside of the package is damaged as long as what is inside doesn't get damaged. And the game will tell you whether or not the package versus the container itself is damaged. And the rain does damage so slowly that, again, it doesn't really matter. Plus, later into the game, it gives you this option to bring along an equipment that will let you repair your containers. So even if you get caught in the rain for a long time, ultimately, you're fine. And that's not mentioning that the rain can also just be avoided. Your map has a forecast that will tell you exactly where and when the rain is going to hit. And it's not like meteorology is hard, so it's like a 70% chance over here at like noon, but down here, it's only like a 30% chance. So you should go this way. It's 100% accurate. If it says the rain's gonna pop up, it will pop up. So you can just go around it if you're really that worried about the rain. So let's see, combat, not a problem. Weather, not a problem. Third obstacle, BTs. I don't remember what BT stands for. I'm just gonna say it stands for bad thing, okay? These guys are little ghost men that hang out and they spook around at you, and if you go too near them, they're like, stop! And they try to like pull you into the ground and make you all dirty, and then a big one shows up and tries to kill you. They're actually kind of a problem at first because they're hard to get around. Your little sensor doesn't work that well, and if you do get caught by them, it's kind of difficult to figure out how to wrestle out of it. But you start to figure them out the more that you encounter them. The number one thing to learn is that if you stand still, you can see where they are and they don't move. You just have to avoid getting too close to them. So, you know, 4 hours into the game, they're not a problem anymore either. And while I'm on the subject of the bad things, why are there so many miniature cutscenes in this game? Every time the bad things show up, your little scanner pops up and goes, woo, 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 woo. There's BTs here. And it's like, cool, thank you. Please don't show me this 30-second cutscene. Oh, and then there's another cutscene when you're out of the BT range and it goes, but you're all good. Have a nice day. It's like, I just let it happen within the game world and I will know immediately that I'm in danger rather than make me watch this long ass cutscene. You want to go into your room? That's cool, gamer. All you have to do is watch this cutscene of the elevator lowering, and then you have to watch a cutscene of you walking away from the elevator, and I think there's a third cutscene. I don't remember that well. But then, fucking congratulations, you're in your room. You want to take a shower? That's 4 cutscenes. That's gonna cost you 4 cutscenes. Are you sure about that? As you can see, most of the obstacles that the game will throw at you can be planned around and avoided. So if you're just smart about it, it's really easy to get that S rank. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not gonna get much harder than that, which is a nice segue, beautiful segue. I'm gonna hop on my segue and ride off to chapter 2, which is about progression in the game. The problem with the progression of Death Stranding is that it is the most fun to play right in the beginning. Ideally, when you are making a game, you should plan to have it be fun in the beginning and then get more fun as you progress and as you unlock more things. Think about stuff like Legend of Zelda, where in the beginning, all you have is the ability to go left, right, up, down, and you can swing your dinky little sword. But in the end, it's like, oh my god, fireball stuff, oh my god, bombs, oh my god, it's other fucking shit. It's great, it's fantastic. Death Stranding does kind of the opposite, where it starts up here and whew, it's just downhill from there, baby. Just all the way downhill. You're going bottom. Which from a delivery standpoint is great because going uphill is a lot harder, but that's not what we're fucking talking about. The game is the most fun in the beginning when all you have to do is slap some packages on your back and fucking point A to point B. That's it. That's all you gotta do. But then it starts adding all kinds of equipment and abilities and stuff you can do that in theory makes the game easier, but realistically just makes it more tedious and frustrating. When you want to introduce a new item or a new ability to a player, I think there's one of 2 really good ways to go about it. The first one is to give the player an issue first and then give them the solution to it later. A really good example of this is a game like Darksiders. Darksiders does this for almost every item it uses. As you're going up throughout the world of Darksiders, you'll keep coming across these blue crystals. And you see these blue crystals and you're like, there's clearly, based on my mini-map, something beyond this, and yet I can't get past it. Nothing I can do anything to this big blue crystal. It is far too powerful for my weak, tiny body. But then, later into the game, you get the Tremor Gauntlet. It's a big old fist, and you quickly learn that hitting the blue crystals with the Tremor Gauntlet makes them go kapow! And all of a sudden, it's like, fuck yeah, dude. Now I can go back to all these other areas, and I can punch the blue crystals, and boom, secret area. Boom, nice item. Boom, S rank. Getting the Tremor Gauntlet or other items like that makes it feel very exciting, because all of a sudden it's like, yes, now this problem I have can be solved. This is awesome. The other good way to introduce equipment is pretty much the polar opposite of that. It's to give the player the equipment ahead of time, let them learn how to use it, and then start to present them with more challenges and make them use it in a more versatile way. Breath of the Wild is an excellent example of this method because they give you all of your basic items and abilities right at the top of the game. You enter this temple and you get this ability to make ice pillars. And at first it's like, okay, cool, I can make ice pillars. That's gonna be really useful. But then as you progress through the game, you learn, oh, I can use it to traverse water. Oh, I can climb on these. Oh, I can block water. Oh, I can destroy other ice blocks. Using this method, the item or ability becomes like second nature to the player, where they learn and experiment different ways to use it, which is super duper fun. Because, oh, maybe you realize there's a different way you could have done something earlier in the game, or you just realize that you can make things easier for yourself. Death Stranding chose a middle ground that doesn't fucking work at all. Death Stranding gives you equipment as the problem it will be used to correct comes into existence. They're presented to you at the same time or very close to each other. As an example of that, I will use the bola gun. As mentioned earlier, there are those stealing boys, I forget what they call them, I think it was stealing boys who like to take your packages. Now at the beginning of the game, they're not really a big deal. There's 3 or 4 of them, they're pretty easy to stealth around, and even if you get caught, punch, punch, trimmer gauntlet, nighty night boys, we're not fighting anymore because you are dead. Not long after they're introduced, you get this thing called a bola gun. And the bola gun is great because it fires out this wire that ties them up and incapacitates them. And when I first got this thing, I was like, sweet, now these minor inconveniences aren't a problem at all. I don't have to worry about avoiding them. I can just go into their camps, steal their stuff, poop on their laptop, and leave. But oh boy, I was an innocent little man, a very tiny adult, pooping in my diapers because I wasn't ready for what was coming next. Hey, sweet dude, you have this gun that can now tie people up. So instead of 3 or 4 guys, we're gonna send like 15 after you. Is that cool? I hope it's cool because it's happening. The game did not give me the item to solve an existing problem, and it did not give me the item to then ramp up the difficulty by slowly adding more enemies. They gave me the item because it was necessary for me to survive. I would not have been able to fight off 15 guys, so it became completely essential that I use the bola gun to tie them up instead. And all of a sudden it was like, damn it. And that is a trend you will start to recognize. Every time the game gives you equipment, it is immediately presented with what it will be used to solve. Oh cool, I got a new gas mask. Oh fuck, now I gotta deal with gas. Oh sweet, I got this little exoskeleton that makes it easier to walk in snow. God damn it, now I'm gonna have to walk in snow. And this is what I meant when I said that the game was most fun when all you had to do was slap packages on your back and walk from point A to point B to point Z, call it a fucking day. As you unlock new equipment, you have more problems to deal with, and none of them are fun to deal with. They're always tedious or annoying. The more equipment you get to solve existing issues, the more issues you have to deal with. And the game gives you equipment pretty frequently, to the point where it starts to feel like the game is trying to give off a vibe of you can approach any situation how you want. That's what they kind of give off. But you quickly learn that that is not the case at all. Think back to our ranking system earlier. What are the 3 things I told you majorly impact the ranking system? Your delivery time, your cargo condition, and the amount that you brought with you. Yeah, maybe the game will give you 40 assault rifles and 30 shotguns and Nintendo Power Glove, but going into combat is a bad idea because it'll jeopardize your cargo. This is the same shit as when you were in middle school and you do a math test and your teacher would give you a bad grade because you used the wrong formula even though you got the right answer. What is that bullshit? It is like if Breath of the Wild said, oh, there's 100 something fucking shrines, 4 divine beasts, and a castle. You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want. But if you don't do it in this exact order, you're gonna get a bad score. You can still do it, but you're fucking dumb if you do. And ultimately, it kind of makes you feel like it's best just not to try new equipment. Yes, I might have a fancy new grenade launcher, but I'm not gonna go run into combat to use it. I'm not even gonna take it with me because it's gonna weigh me down and I'm just gonna avoid combat entirely. So why would I ever touch the grenade launcher? There's so much equipment in the game that ultimately got left to the side because the game taught me not to use it. I just realized my zipper was unzipped. It's a good thing you can't see that. Do you want to hear a little fun fact about me? Well, I love to travel. I love the natural beauty of the world around me. I'm so astonished by all the kinds of different photos that I see from around the world, and I wish I could get out and travel more. I want to see places like the Redwood Forests of California and the Ozark Rivers, all these beautiful national parks out there that just have all this beautiful scenery. I don't live there anymore, but when I grew up, I lived in New Hampshire, and I doubt I will ever forget how beautiful the mountains are out there. Now you might be wondering why I'm bringing this up. Well, before I answer that, let me first show you the world of Death Stranding. Now what I just showed you were shots from very different parts of the world of Death Stranding. And you might be thinking, oh, well they decided to make their map a little samey. That's fine, lots of games do that. And how large exactly is the map of Death Stranding? Well, okay, let me simplify it for you. It's only the entire fucking United States of America. Kojima, have you ever been to America? We got more than ugly ass grass fields, dog. I know you got that game developer money. I know you made a killing on Metal Gear Solid 5. You started a new studio to make this bullshit ass game, and yet you don't know that America looks better than this? This is a cross-country experience. You go from the East Coast to the West Coast in the game, yet all you see are flat grasslands, and there's a big snowy mountain and some ruined cities, and there's a red area, but there's nothing unique or interesting about it whatsoever. For a game that is about walking from point A to point B, you'd think they'd give you some more interesting shit to look at. This is absolutely one of the biggest missed opportunities of Death Stranding. Now the game will occasionally teleport you to these battlefields from various wars throughout the world to fight an angry milkman, and I will talk about this in the later combat part of the video, but right now I want to call specifically to the one where you go to a Vietnam War area. This battlefield is surprisingly beautiful. It's got lush forests, there's all these beautiful trees and these big old rocks, and it's nice green color. It's so nice to walk through. I was actually dumbfounded by how pretty it looked. And I think it's a really good example of what could have been done with this game if they decided to add any world variety at all. I spent 44 hours in this game, and I think about 40 total of those hours were just spent walking through the world. Imagine how much more interesting that would have been if I'd gotten to climb the New Hampshire mountains and walk through the beautiful Ozark rivers and then finally end up in the redwood forest and get to see all these giant trees everywhere. I know they can't recreate the map of the United States perfectly, but they could definitely have done better than they did. Any game that is about traveling or exploration should be laser focused on having an interesting map. And Death Stranding, it feels like they wanted to make it crushing and depressing, which could have been equally possible with a variety of areas, but instead they chose, oh hey, this depressing green flatland is really just not doing it for me. Let's make it the entire map so the player just feels awful the entire time. And I did. Thank you. Appreciate it. Building off of that, I also want to say that for a game about traveling the world to make it Deliveries, the world itself is very unrelated to the Deliveries. Now I mentioned earlier that the only real weather effect the game has to offer is the acid rain. There is of course the blizzard in the snow mountain that makes it really hard to see, and there's this one area of the game where you're kind of hiking through a mountain and there's wind blowing really hard, so you're threatening to get knocked over and have your packages damaged the entire time. But that is one part of the game, and a very small part of the game. And I really liked it. There are very few ways that the environment and the world around you actually impedes your ability to make deliveries, which does not make sense to me at all, because the entire point of your character's job is that you go out and go from point A to point B because other people are afraid to. So why on earth is the world itself so easy to traverse? If the world did have a lot more variety, there might be more room for the world itself to kind of push back and fight you on your deliveries. There's one delivery in particular in the snowy mountain area where you have to take a bomb from the top of the mountain to the bottom. And the thing that's fun about it is that the bomb is unstable and any big bumps are going to cause it to go off. At first it sounds like a pain in the ass, and it kind of is, but it's also a lot of fun because I planned ahead, plotted my route, and then I got on my motorcycle and I had to drive incredibly slowly across the mountain to make sure I didn't blow up the bomb. In that situation, the environment I was in directly impacted my delivery, but there aren't a lot of deliveries like that. And you can tell I like that delivery because it stuck out to me. I probably did 100 or so deliveries in this game before I finished it, but that one's the one I remember the most. Just imagine some other scenarios where that might have been used. Like say, oh, you're in the Nevada deserts and some guy wants his fucking Mountain Dew Baja Blast and he wants it ice cold. So you gotta fucking book it across this desert before it gets too warm. And you have a couple options of doing that. Maybe there's like a freezer truck you can use. You can keep the Baja Blast in, but the freezer truck is kind of difficult to get over the terrain. So maybe a better option would be to have some ice packs on your pack. And then you could take that Mountain Dew Baja Blast with the ice packs down to the person. But this would still be kind of on a time limit because the ice packs are also going to melt and then the Baja Blast will get warm. And that, no one wants fucking warm Baja Blast, all right? It's better when it's cold. There was so much room for this to be more than it was. And yet the world is just grasslands everywhere. Everywhere. Kojima, have you been to America? I know you have. You got millions of dollars. Don't even fucking pretend you don't. I do have to give the game one big compliment, which is that the music manages to set the tone of the world very well. I can't play any of it for you because I'm fairly certain most of it is copyrighted, but definitely look up the soundtrack of this game. It's used really effectively, and I think it could have been a real asset if the world were just more interesting to look at. If the world itself is not trying to stop you from delivering your packages, then what or who exactly is? The combat sucks. It just does. It's terrible. It's awful. The fisticuffs is way too easy. It's basically just button mashing. And the guns are not at all satisfying to use in the slightest. Not to mention that having to carry hundreds of kilograms worth of fucking printer ink that people order on Amazon is not exactly conducive to fluid combat. When you think about games that have satisfying shooting mechanics, it's frequently paired with a satisfying movement mechanic. If you think about a game like Apex Legends, where you can be sliding around the dang ground and jumping all over the place, that's a good example. And you might want to argue that it's not supposed to feel good because you are carrying all that stuff. It's supposed to feel like you're slowed down, but if your combat doesn't feel good, don't fucking include it. It legitimately feels like you're running around wearing a fucking Barney the goddamn dinosaur outfit shooting an AK and you can't quite move right or get a good grip on the gun because you got these fucking dinosaur fingers and it doesn't work. It doesn't feel good. You gotta take the dinosaur costume off, strip down to raw man and go play some fucking Overwatch because that shooting feels good. Death Stranding does not have good shooting. And that's really unfortunate because the further you progress in the game, the more they start to focus in on that shooting. Especially in the later parts when you're on the West Coast, they basically say, yep, fuck all that delivery bullshit. You're gonna fight somebody now and have fun because it doesn't feel good, but just do it, go. You go, stupid. And on top of which, the game gives you way too many guns to begin with, considering the ranking system, as mentioned earlier, expects you to avoid shooting people. They give you a fucking lethal pistol and level 2 lethal pistol, level 3 lethal pistol, a lethal shotgun, a level 2 lethal shotgun. You get the point, it keeps going. But you're not supposed to use lethal weapons because they tell you, oh, it'll make more BTs in the world, so I never fucking touched them. Why'd you give me 60 different lethal weapons and then tell me if you use them, it's a bad idea and you're a stupid poo-poo head? You're the stupid poo-poo head. You put the stupid gun in the game. Why'd you put it in the game if you don't want me to use it? The game also seems to have some kind of auto aim system where there's this little reticle that'll show up right on an enemy and I think it just automatically shoots them for you and it's like, okay, you're already making the shooting not at all fun for me. Why are you doing it for me? So we already know that shooting humans is stupid. What about the bad things? As I mentioned earlier, these giant bad things will show up sometimes and you're supposed to shoot at them with these special guns and use up your blood and whatnot, and it's really gross. But they're just unreasonably stupid to fight. They can hardly do a thing to you. They have way too much buildup to their attacks, and whenever you have to fight one, the game will constantly throw weaponry at you until you can just defeat it anyway. And speaking of fighting the BTs, let's talk about void outs. Most of the time, when you are fighting a BT, all they'll try to do is like swipe at you or they'll charge at you, try to knock you over and make you fall down dead. Here's the thing. Sam Bridges, the character you play as, has something called main character powers. And that means that he never technically dies. If he does die, he barfs up a little black ooze and he gets back up and his packages are a little damaged and he goes on his merry way. But in a very special circumstance, if a bad thing eats Sam Porter Bridges, it will cause a void out. What's a void out, you might be asking? It's a big old explosion. These big old explosions will leave these giant craters on the map that will never go away. And from what I can tell, this is a very rare occurrence. It only happened to me one time in my playthrough of Death Stranding, but that one time was a major inconvenience for the rest of the game. My void out happened at a very special location, okay? There was a mountain on one side, a mountain on another, and then just one road leading straight through the middle of them, and the void out happened right where that road leads into. What does that mean? It means that my only pathway through these two mountains was completely blocked off by this giant crater that I can't even touch. I had to go around and climb the mountains every time I need to get through that area for the rest of the fucking game. It never went away. Now you can argue that having the void outs have such a potentially detrimental consequence is a good thing because it makes you fear them more. But I would counter that by saying that's stupid, especially when you consider that I had no idea a void out could even happen before it did happen. The game gave me no indication. It did not tell me anything about if you get eaten by a BT, it's going to cause a big old explosion that'll majorly inconvenience you. It did not tell me anything about that. It just happened to me. It's like if I fucking broke my leg when I was 3 years old and then the doctor was like, you fucked up, so I'm not gonna heal this. It's gonna stay broken forever. I know you didn't know that this was gonna happen and it was an accident, but fuck you, idiot. You shouldn't have broken your leg. So all of this might come across as me saying that the combat is too difficult and I was being a little crybaby piss boy and saying, oh, I can't beat it. Mom, come play the game for me and beat it because it's too hard. But I'm actually kind of saying the opposite. The combat is way too easy in this game. Like I mentioned before, the BTs really don't fight back that much. They're really easy to kill. The humans aren't that tough either. The gun auto aims at them. And if the game requires you to get into a fight, the game will always help you out with it way too much. Like I mentioned earlier, there are these parts of the game where the game will transport you to a battlefield from around the world and you'll have to fight this mad milk guy. But anytime it does, it's not like, oh, you're only taking what you have with you, so you better hope you have a gun that can take care of this guy. It's nothing like that. The game will fucking drop guns and blood bags on the ground for you constantly, just all over the place. The blood bags, which I have not talked about yet, are how you can heal yourself as well as use certain guns that are effective against the BTs. It takes 2 blood bags in later parts of the games to fully heal you. And there's 3 blood bags to a box, and in this fight, I have 5 boxes and can fully heal myself 7 fucking times. Why do I have to worry about getting shot at if I've got blood fucking flowing into me the whole goddamn time? Nothing is a problem. I can have a leg come off and it'll just be spurting blood constantly. But it's okay, I've got more blood flowing in, so you can spurt out all you want. I've got more. It's like a constant recycling program. We're just getting clean blood. It's great. I think it's also important to realize that it does not make any sense for combat to be as easy as it is, especially when they try to set it up as something difficult. The 2 main antagonists that the game tries to set up for you, Angry Milkman and Higgs, are both set up as super powerful people. Angry Milkman is called a combat veteran and he's supposed to be like a hardened, grizzled soldier. And Higgs is constantly being set up as like, oh my god, he's so powerful. He's got like god powers. He's basically an anime antagonist. He's a fucking badass. You stand no chance. He controls the weather. He controls how much pussy juice flows out of your mother, okay? And I'm standing over here like, I'm just an Amazon delivery man. How am I supposed to fight a combat veteran and an anime protagonist who's sleeping with my mother? The answer is, you just can because. Cool. Punch him really hard. That is how you defeat him. That is not a joke. You punch him really hard. Oh, but Mack, the punching part was only the last part of the fight. What about the part where you fight the big human BT? Or the part where you have to fucking chase after him while he's teleporting around? They're not hard either. When he makes the giant BT thing, the game gives you rocket launchers left and right, like I mentioned earlier. And then in the part where he's teleporting around, he has no fucking AI. He'll stand in place and wait for you to come over. And he sucks at aiming, so you can just run. He sucks. Higgs sucks. He's not strong. And combat isn't hard. It's not fun. It's not hard. Why is it in the game? Okay, taking a deep breath. Since combat is such an inconsequential part of the game, and because more often than not it can be avoided, and if it can't, the game will just feed you guns and ammunition and blood bags, it can basically be considered a separate part of the game, almost a mini game, and not a good one. If any of you have been watching me for a long time or watch me over on Twitch, you probably know by now that I'm not particularly patient about video game stories. If it doesn't immediately hook me, I'm probably not interested in the first place, and I won't continue to pay attention to it.
Is it gonna open up after this? Because I would very much like that. Great fucking music video, guys. Can we get back to the game, please? Got it. Thanks. Okay, they're just gonna keep going, huh?
It's also extremely easy to lose me when it comes to a video game story because I don't care about video game stories that much. I want to play the game. And if the story's not interesting but the game is fun, I'm still gonna play the game. On the other hand, if the game sucks and the story's interesting, that won't make me play a game. Death Stranding is interesting to me because it actually has an engaging and interesting story. One of the most interesting I've ever seen. So much so that I even start to care about the side characters. The game has a system where the side characters will send you mail from time to time, which will thank you for what you did for them, or will tell you of ways that you inspired them to do different things. And it's interesting. And I feel surprised saying that because they will send you paragraphs at a time, just tons of mail. And I read all of it. For some reason, I was attached to these characters and I liked hearing from them, which is really impressive in terms of how I react to games like this. But ultimately, the story is completely disconnected from the gameplay entirely. The deliveries do not advance the storyline so much as the deliveries are an excuse for you to go from cutscene to cutscene. Whenever you get from point A to point B, the game will dump a cutscene on you or fill you in on a little backstory, and then you can just go keep delivering. It doesn't impact the gameplay at all. It's not like while you're walking through the world, you're suddenly like held back by all these things you know about the world or something like that, or oh, you learn some information that makes it so, oh, maybe I have to complete deliveries differently. No, it just means like, okay, so this was a chapter of the story, and when I get to the next part of the game, there'll be another chapter of the story, and doing those two things aren't really related. And the world that Death Stranding is set in just, it doesn't make any sense, and the game just expects you to figure that out. And you might be expecting that it will eventually reveal the mysteries, but it's not going to. Just figure it out. So like this world was just the real world, like at Chicago and Seattle, you could just take a plane, go from left to right. But then like the real world and the ghost world like merged together. So now there's ghosts of the real world, and the ghosts don't like the humans because the humans are still alive and they can still play Xbox. So the ghosts try to kill the humans, so the humans have to go in hiding. But sometimes the ghosts form into like a really big ghost, and if the big ghost eats a human, it causes a void out. That's bad. And now since there's ghosts in the real world, if a human dies, then within 48 hours their body will decompose and they'll turn into a ghost man. But if you incinerate their bodies, they don't turn into ghosts because they go to hell instead. But then if a big bad thing goes ahead and eats one of the decomposing people humans, then it causes a real big explosion. And that's why the world is all fucked up. And now because there are ghosts in the world, there are also like some people who can see the ghost or sense the ghost, but most people can't. And like if there's a baby that's born, it's like it's not technically alive yet because it's still in the womb. So if we take it out of the womb, but we make it think that this little jar is also a womb, the baby can sense the ghosts. Because the baby's kind of like a ghost. And then there's guys like Higgs who are friends with the ghost because one time a ghost was crying and Higgs gave it a Snickers bar and he was like, here, you're not yourself when you're hungry. And now the BTs are friends with Higgs because they really like Snickers bars. And then there's this lady, she's your sister, but also your mom. You don't know that till later. But she exists in the world called the beach. But the beach isn't actually a beach, it's just a different dimension where the ghosts aren't. And then the real one is in the real world, but because the real one is real and the beach one is fake, the real one ages and dies, so now all you have is the fake one in the other dimension. So then everyone's like, oh, go save your sister. She's on a beach on the West Coast, but she's not actually on the beach on the West Coast. She's in a different dimension. So why did you have to go cross country? I don't fucking know. The more time you spend with the story and the more you start to unlock the mysteries of the world, the less interesting they become as you realize that the explanations for everything is just, oh, because the characters all operate on the same kind of faux logic too. They all seem very interesting at first until you learn why they are the way that they are. There's Lockney and Malingen, who are these wonder twins who can share ESP, but then like one of them got pregnant and then they just stopped talking because the one got hurt in an accident and that's her own fault. And then they didn't talk for a really long time, but then Lockney was like, oh, the world needs me, so I guess I'll go see my sister Malingen. So you take her to Malingen, but she dies on the way. Why? I don't know. But it's okay because they have special twin power. And when one of them dies, they just fucking Dragon Ball Fusion high into one person, and now you've got Lockney Malingen. And they operate out of the same body. Why? Doesn't fucking matter. Shut up, quit questioning it. Die Hard Man. He's very mysterious. He wears this spooky skull mask, but he's also the president of the United States. I think if Trump wore a big skull mask, he'd probably get really blasted in the media, but Die Hard Man can do it, because I don't know. And also he goes by Die Hard Man, which does not really sound like a good guy's name, and what is his actual name? Doesn't matter. You voted for him. He's your president. You voted for him as Die Hard Man. You wanted your president to be named Die Hard Man. That was your choice. Why is he named that? Why does he wear the mask? He wears the mask for no reason. He'll take it off later with just no climactic reason at all. Why is he called Die Hard Man? Because he just kept being alive. He wouldn't die, so it's like hard for him to die. That's actually the reason.
You know why they call me Die Hardman? Because he wouldn't let me die.
Dead man is a man who's both dead and man. He was made from a bunch of parts from corpses. How is he alive? Who fucking knows? So he's never alive to begin with, so he's like a big old zombie, but he still lives and breathes, so you can kind of talk to him, and
I'm a soulless meat puppet.
these characters have personalities and are interesting, but ultimately when you learn more about them, they are just so unbelievably stupid, and then there's absolutely no conflict between them. They're all working towards the same goal, and any conflict they have is essentially resolved by them saying, oh, well, please just do it anyway. At the beginning of the game, Sam is like, America is fake. I'm not gonna help you guys with your bullshit thing, because I don't want to. And then Dead Man and Die Hard Man were like, well, can you just do it anyway? And then he just does it anyway. That's fucking literally the actual thing that happens.
Sam, listen to me. America, Reconstructionism. Her dream isn't dead.
I don't want to hear it. Go fuck yourself. I'm not your errand boy. No, I'm through with this.
Take the Cupid west, Sam, and reconnect the people of our great nation.
If there are character arcs, they're not earned at all. They basically just happen magically. The best example is Sam himself. Sam, at the beginning, you learn he's very afraid of getting touched.
What the hell? Didn't mean to grab you so hard.
Why? I don't know. Does it matter? No, because eventually he just gets over it. Dead man, stop. That is not social distancing. Where's your mask? God, this game really does take place in America. So let me make an addendum to what I said at the beginning of this chapter. The story is very interesting. You want to learn what's next. But for some reason, they keep putting this video game in the middle of the story. And also all the interesting things about the story end up having boring resolutions. So it's actually pretty shit. Before you even ask me, yes, the ending does have to be a separate chapter from the story. As mentioned before, the ending takes everything interesting and intriguing about the plot and the story and just fucking crashes it into the ground. It feels like they spent hours setting up all these cutscenes and plot points and subplots and stacking blocks, and then they just lost funding and the base of the blocks just got fucking swept out from under them and the whole thing came tumbling down and they had to just wrap it up real quick. Everything that was interesting about the story gets revealed in the least interesting possible way, namely someone just explaining it in a completely anticlimactic method way, place, thing, people. To give you an idea of how much of an insult the ending of this game is, let me just give you a bullet pointed list of how this all goes down. So after you beat the final boss of the game, you go into the other dimension where your sister is hanging out and she's like, I gotta destroy the world, bro, cause like, it's my purpose. And then you're like, well, what if you didn't? And then she's like, all right, cool. And then you get teleported to a different beach, and this is where it all goes wrong. Here's what happens at the beach place. You run a little bit and then you stop, collapse over, and you sit down on the ground, and your sister will appear and she'll explain things. She'll end the plot points you were interested in by just explaining them to you. She'll take all the mystery of the story and plot out completely and just explain it to you words. Nothing gets resolved in any kind of climactic or interesting way. The sister just explains it right here on the beach. And the great thing about the beach too is that it takes fucking forever. Here's how this works. You run around aimlessly for a bit till he falls over, then she explains bullshit to you for like 5 minutes straight, then she disappears, you get up, you run around some more, and it recycles like 50 fucking times it feels like. I don't know how long this part actually takes, but you don't even have the option to like get up, sit on the couch, and watch some Eric Andre while this bullshit plays out. Because if you don't move after she stops talking to you, the next part won't continue. So not only are you trapped in an endless loop of listening to some dumb bitch talk, everything you wanted to know is going to be revealed here in the least interesting possible way. And so after however long of dealing with this bullshit, the credits finally roll. And Norman Reedus tries to kill himself, but I already used all the bullets trying to shoot my sister earlier, so he can't do that. And then the title card shows up. It's a beautiful logo, and the game comes to a close. Or so you fucking thought. Next comes a 20-minute long cutscene where they again just reveal a bunch of character backstories and bullshit that's like, okay, cool, can I go home now? And then they send you on this one last delivery. It's like, I gotta go to this fucking incinerator and get rid of this stupid baby up and take care of it right with me because he peed his pants. I don't want to take care of the diaper, so I'm just gonna incinerate him. That seems like a better solution. So you take the baby to the incinerator, but then before you incinerate it, you get stuck in a 35-minute long cutscene. That's right! You thought the 20-minute cutscene was bad, but no, there's a 35-minute fucking long cutscene in this game. And here's where you find out how Angry Milkman became the dad of the little baby character, and also how he died, and who killed him, which was Die Hard Man, which isn't interesting at all, and at this point you're not interested. And then the credits roll, and you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Mac, did we already see the credits roll? What is this, a fucking typo in your script? Did you actually type it in again? No! You get to watch the credits twice in this game. Kojima was like, I gotta have my name in the intro, in the credits, in the second credits. Okay, I'm fucking baller. My name's on the logo. It's all about me. My name's Kojima. Oh! So then after the second set of unskippable credits, the title shows up. Isn't that a nice title card? Fantastic. I love a great logo on this game. Then you get to see the Kojima logo. So you remember, oh, this is whose house I need to send bombs to. Don't do that. That is illegal. That was a joke. And finally, 2 fucking hours after you beat the final boss, the game ends for real this time. I wanted to die after having to go through all of that. Halfway through the 2 hours, I wanted to be done. I was ready to be done. But it just wouldn't let me escape. If I want to play a game for 8 hours, I will play a game for 8 hours. But if you force me to play a game for 2 hours, Daddy's angry. But somehow, that twisted fucking limbo prison of an ending is not the biggest insult this game has to offer. The biggest insult is BB. Who is BB? BB stands for baby. I've intentionally avoided talking about BB up to this point, even though he's a major part of this game, because I really want to break down how big of a deal this ending was. Throughout the entire game, you have this little baby strapped to your chest. His name is BB, and he lets you see the bad things in the world. But he also manages to sit as a part of the story, as well as kind of a partner character throughout the game.
That's because we're partners.
Partners.
Every now and then, he'll give you a little thumbs up, and if he gets too scared by the bad things, he'll start freaking out, and you have to like shake his little bottle, but don't shake it too hard because then you'll hurt his little stupid little head, and calm him down. And because Sam has main character powers and can never die, whenever he connects to BB, you see these flashbacks of BB's that kind of show his early life, as hard as that is to think of because he already is in early life. It's here in these flashbacks that you realize that Angry Milkman, who's always trying to kill you, is BB's father, and that something went down where the father had to protect the BB, and now the BB's with you for some reason. These flashbacks were legitimately one of my favorite parts of the game. It reminds me of the movie Memento, where you would have to piece together what happened based on different scenes that you came across. The game doesn't give you the cutscenes in a linear order, so you have to kind of figure out what happens and what the flow of the cutscenes is, and I was absolutely intrigued trying to find out how it flows into the major plot and how exactly BB got to me. And the game is constantly telling you that BB is like a failed BB. There's more than one BB, but yours is a failure, but you like him anyway, so you keep him.
But why is it here?
Because it's flagged for disposal. Central Knot's gone, and our headquarters along with it. Because that thing didn't do its job.
And so I thought that, like, since he's a failure and he has all these flashbacks going on, like, that's gonna connect somehow in a meaningful way, where BB ending up in your care had something to do with those flashbacks, which connected to the overall plot. For me, a guy who doesn't give a fuck about stories and hates kids, to care about BB, that was really well done. I wanted so badly to learn more about him, to know how he ended up with me, to know how these flashbacks relate to what's going on, and I wanted to know the mysteries. I wanted to have the questions answered. And what am I rewarded with? In the 35-minute long cutscene that you see at the end of the game that just constantly ruins plot lines for you, you find out that Angry Milkman is your dad, and that all the flashbacks you were seeing were your own memories. Let me say that again. All the flashbacks you've been seeing that set up BB as an interesting and important character, they were yours the entire time. So who's BB? He's nobody. He's just a baby. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding? I spent how long in this game interested in this dumbass baby, and I had to take care of it and soothe it and fucking make sure he didn't get stressed out. He's nobody. He's just a fucking baby. What the fuck? This was the biggest slap in the face that I have ever experienced, except for the time that my mom slapped me in the face for pooping on her car, but I deserved that. I didn't deserve this! 44 hours of my life in the drain. I didn't fucking deserve this, Kojima. Why did they even call this game Death Stranding? It should have been called fucking Sam. Nothing in the story has any relevance unless it can somehow relate to Sam. The plot moves forward because Sam exists. He's not a part of the world is a part of him. Sam's the only one who could fix the whole world. Why? Doesn't fucking matter. He's the only one that can. If he decided not to do this bullshit, you wouldn't have Death Stranding. Why shouldn't Sam's sister destroy the world? Because Sam looked her in the eyes and said, "Pretty please, for me." Who's BB? No one. Why does he matter? Because Sam likes him. Who's Die Hard Man? Oh, he killed your daddy, but your daddy also shot at you, so bad daddy, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Everything comes back to Sam, and not in a good way. Because Sam is not a character that I care about. He's the least interesting protagonist of any game I've ever played. He doesn't even wear a funny hat or anything. He's just there and depressed. This ending completely ruined the story and ultimately my experience with Death Stranding. I honestly would not have been so aggravated about this game if it weren't for how dog shit the ending was. Not only in terms of what they subjected me to, but also in terms of how they revealed things and wrapped things up. It was the most infuriating ending to a plot that I've ever experienced, and I was very, very angry. So in conclusion, should you play this game? I don't know is the answer. It's definitely a fantastic example of how not to make a game. And it's a great example of why you need a team of people to tell you, hey, don't do this dumb bullshit. So if you're an aspiring game developer, I would highly recommend playing this game because there's a lot you'll learn from it. But ultimately, if you look at this game and if you look at this video and you decide I'm still interested in playing this game, you should, because that's basically why I played it. Everything on paper said I shouldn't like this game, but I played it anyway. This game would have been a lot better, in my opinion, if they had just cut combat entirely, at least in terms of the humans. I think that the world should have fought back against you more, and the game should have been more about mastering deliveries rather than just fighting some people who want to touch your packages and get hot off of it. I don't think this game is a mistake, and I don't think it should be hated. I think it's more of a misstep. I personally don't regret playing it, because if nothing else, it is 100% the most unique game I've ever played. I mean, here I am 5-6 months after I've played it, and I've gone this in depth talking about it, and it's not like I went through my footage and looked at every second of it to remember this stuff. This is all just still in my head. And a lot of games I play, I forget a lot of stuff about because it's all the same these days. This game stands out. Honestly, this game is kind of a guilty pleasure for me because, like I said, on paper, there's no reason I should like it. But I would be lying to you if I said I did not enjoy playing through it. The game obviously gave me a lot to think about, and ultimately, I feel like I'm better able to recognize the things that I do like in video games because I played this game that had so much that I didn't like. And it's important to me for that reason alone. The message of this video is follow your dreams. But if someone says, hey, your dream isn't bad, just do it in a way that works, don't quit your company, go form your own studio, and make Death Stranding and have it bomb because it fucking sucks. If you've actually watched this entire video, I'm very impressed with you, and I want you to leave a big old pizza pie in the comments for me, and then you can have a slice too, because it's very sweet of you to have joined me today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I gotta say, I've really been enjoying making videos of this, like this, where I just talk about stuff that I like talking about. I've got another video coming soon that's, I think it's gonna be really good, and it's a topic that I'm super interested in, and it just feels good to be motivated by, things that I am so personally interested in. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I'll have more videos like this coming in the future. And thank you very, very much for watching. Have a great day. Oh, why are you walking on Papa's hair? That's not gonna do anything for you.
You wanna go to bed? I wanna go to bed, I'm tired.
Hey kid, buy the merch.